Hey, scrappy people, Traci Reed here today, coming at you with Scraplift Saturday over on the Traci Reed Designs blog. And today we are scraplifting our digital team member Jenn. Jenn's been on my team for forever, and I'm so excited to scraplift her. And this is the layout that I'm going to be scraplifting. I'm actually going to be changing that up quite a bit to make it work for a life crafted page. So I'm actually just going to click and drag this into Photoshop so I can show you what I'm going to be doing. I am going to, let's zoom out a little. I'm going to actually rotate this 90 degrees counterclockwise, and I'm just going to take this whole central cluster and I'm going to offset it to one side or the other, probably the left hand side. I think it lends itself to the left hand side just a little bit better. So I'm going to be using this set of photos of my kid today, and I'm going to be using the Libris Galaxias collection, which might seem like an unconventional choice, but if you check it out, you can see there are nighttime papers. There is the green of his outfit plus the purple and pink of his glasses in this collection. And so I think I'm going to be able to make it work pretty well. Now I'm not going to be creating this entire layout in Photoshop. I'm just going to be creating my paper layers in Photoshop, and then I'm going to take it into the real world with my printed papers and scrap it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and start the voiceover recording now. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up the layout, put it to the side so that I can use it as a reference for my own photos. I'm going to resize these photos a bit smaller, and I'm going to duplicate them first so that I can keep them straight, so that when I go to print them I can use a paper trimmer rather than scissors. And every time I resize these photos a little bit more, I'm going to make sure I do the same thing to those photos that I pulled to the side, so you can see me turn them back on, resize them, and turn them back off again so that I can use them later. So just adding shadows so that it's easier for me to see in Photoshop, and then I'm going to start adding my shapes using the shape tool in Photoshop. There is a large circle and then a bunch of paper strips on this layout. Now this layout does use a template by, I think it's called Tinsy Designs. So if you just want to copy this layout directly, you can just go ahead and buy the template from the original template designer. I am definitely changing this page way too much to bother with starting with the template, so I am just creating my own paper strips here. You can see that I added a point to that paper strip and then drug it in to create that fishtail banner. I don't have to do that in Photoshop. I can just print a paper strip and then add the fishtail banner myself with scissors, but I decided to do it in Photoshop because it's more precise and it's easy for me to do. So you just use the add anchor point tool and add a point to the middle of that paper, or the middle of the edge of the paper, and then just drag it in. So I'm just making sure that I replicate most of these paper strips that are on this template. There are a few that I'm not going to use, like the one that ends up being down toward the bottom of the page under the circle. It's just like a random outlier on this composition that I don't really like, so I'm not going to add it to my own. That is the beauty of scraplifting, is that you can make it your own, right? You're starting with an inspiration piece and then you are doing your own thing with it. So I've got all of my paper strips about settled now, and so I'm going to start adding in papers from the Libris Galaxias collection. I want one of these constellation, starry sky papers to be the background, so that's where I'm starting. There we go. And then I can't decide if I want more of the blue or more of the pink, but I think I'm going to go with more of the pink, maybe more of the blue. I don't know. We'll decide somewhere along the line. I think blue with a little bit of purple on top because it matches his glasses, but opposite, right? His glasses go from blue to purple. I did purple to blue. I initially was going to use the same paper for these two paper strips because I liked the way that the arrows pointed at him, but it's just too much for the composition I'm going for, so I do end up changing that later. I'm trying to decide on what papers I want to add in here for just to work with that blue and that purple, and also the photos, because obviously the photos don't go with the theme. They're sort of dark, they're sort of they're not great photos because they were taken at night and they're like Snapchat quality, and you know, you take what you can get when you're getting photos from teenagers. I'm just happy he sent me photos for me to scrapbook, so I'm gonna go with it. So I made the photos kind of small, they're sort of grainy, so I'm just trying to bring out the colors in the photos a little bit with the choices of paper that I am picking here. So this big circle is going to end up going in the back of my layout. So right now it's in the front, but it's going to go in the back of the layout. So I want to make sure that it's like sitting on top of the blue, right? So I want to make sure that it's visible and stands out pretty well. So this is like the majority of what I do when I digital scrapbook, is just move things back and forth, which is the exact same thing that I do when I paper scrapbook. Imagine that. I do the same thing digitally that I do in paper. Okay, so I'm getting close to done here. I'm trying to, like, these two, the plaid and the stripe were too much together, but I'm almost there. Just a couple more papers. You can do it, Traci. I decided to pull in some pink, which really brings out the skin tone in the photo, which is helpful. Then I'm going to have this for the background, and it stands out enough, follows the theme, doesn't bring in the book theme. Okay, so now I need to rebuild the layout that I had in Photoshop in paper, so I'm just going to put it all back together. I just hand cut out all of these papers. You can tell by the edges on the top there. And I'm just gonna reassemble everything the way that it looked, and then I'm gonna build from there. So I am gonna pull in some embellishments from the Libris Galaxias collection, but obviously the book, or the collection, is very heavily book themed, and so there's a lot that I can't use in the collection that to make sense with this page. So I'm going to pull in some basics from my Citrus Twist stash that is growing. I have some chipboard stars and some alphabets that I'm going to use. And then I'm going to pull in a surprise bling pop that I really, really liked. But first I got to build this. And then I want to make sure that these photos get angled correctly with these paper strips at the top. So I'm going to put the photos together, and then I'm going to attach the photos to the paper strips, and then I'm going to attach the whole thing to the layout. I need to cut off this bottom part so it doesn't stick out the bottom. Okay, there, this is where we were in Photoshop. Now we can move on. I've cut it and added my holes because I always forget to add my holes, and then I put things over the holes that bother me. So I've also pulled out a bunch of embellishments from the collection that I think might work with this page. My kid's really into planets and Saturn and the moon and all of that. So I'm pulled out all of those embellishments from this collection, and a little journal spot for me to add a few lines to. And now I just need to make some embellishment clusters. I thought about printing out these embellishments a bit smaller because they are rather large on this page, but I decided that I already had some printed and I wanted to go with the actual sticker size from the sticker sheets, so I did not resize any of these embellishments. I knew I wanted to use that plot twist and incorporate it into my title, so I had to find it because I didn't pull it out the first time. I pulled out a few Citrus Twist alphabets, and I thought I was going to use the purple initially, but I don't end up going with the purple because it blends in too much with the background. So now I'm going to start adhering things down. So you can see how I did incorporate some bookish things, but because they're taken out of context and there's no books to be seen in this page. It does not read as I'm like using book embellishments, except for that one word strip over there that says my weekend is booked. It does have books in the background, but I'm using it as in this kid is super popular. He's always going places with his friends. In fact, I gotta drive him everywhere all the time and it drives me insane. And the way that that word strip is designed, even though it does have books on it, it doesn't, they're not super like prominent in the page or in the embellishment, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going to put it right here with these word strips, these paper strips. I need to add some things to it. I thought about adding that, but it was just too big. I have a lot of big things going on this page, so I don't want to add more big things. So I'm going to use this aqua alphabet instead. And so now my whole title says, plot twist, my kid is so cool, which I decided to add that as my title because when I saw the plot twist word embellishment, it really resonated with me in this way because my kid is so super confident, so cool, so sure of himself and who he is. He's very popular, which coming from me, I was not that way in high school. I wasn't like super not self-confident or anything, but you know, everyone has high school insecurities and all of that. But my kid really, I'm sure he has insecurities, but he's really, really secure in who he is. And it makes me so happy that he owns who he is, that he loves who he is, and that the people around him love who he is too. So that is like the direction that I'm going to go with my journaling. So I thought that that title really worked. I'm incorporating these chipboard citrus twist kits stars in colors that coordinate. I decided to make sure that I had aqua and blue and pink on both sides of the page. And then I'm adding in these really neat iridescent purple sequins that are very, very old from a very old Coco Daisy collection. And they really just add the bling and that little unexpected pop of purple to this page, and it is so cool. I love the way that this came out. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. There is a blog post linked in the description box below with the Scraplift challenge if you'd like to see more examples, and I will see you next time. Thank you.